Hi folks, this is day 2 of our reason for the season. We live in a peculiar age. Our technological world depends on logic, reason and science. Yet, increasingly we find ourselves doing things that are illogical, acting on pulse, flying in the face of reason. Films skate swiftly over gaping holes in the plot. Advertisements flaunt reality. Politicians appeal to sentiment rather than sense. Don't worry about the facts, just enjoy the experience. Christmas can be a bit like that. The nativity play begins and Joseph, Mary, and in big budget productions, Donkey, they tread on the stage. And it's Christmas again. Yet we need to ask, what's actually going on? Why is the birth of Jesus good news? Why are there angels? And why did the shepherds come? Perhaps above all the question, what is this baby doing in the manger? Why is everybody treating him as if he's God? The important point, and it bears repeating, is that there is a logic to Christmas. Consider the centuries-old carol that begins, "On Christmas night all angels sing, to hear the news the angels bring." News of great joy, news of great mirth, news of our merciful King's birth. Note that repeated reference to joy that I mentioned yesterday. Now listen to the second verse. Then why should we on earth be sad, since our Redeemer made us glad? Then why should we on earth be sad, since our Redeemer made us glad? When from our sin he set us free, all for to gain our liberty. The long forgotten writer of this carol says there is a reason why we should be joyful and full of mirth or happiness. There is a Redeemer and he has made us glad because he set us free and has given us liberty. When we come across verses like this, it is always worthwhile asking ourselves, what's going on here? To understand this, we need to go back a bit. We do ourselves a disservice by splitting our Bibles into Old and New Testaments. Our New Testament is the fulfillment, the completion of the Old Testament. The Old Testament is a long, winding story of how God began to deal with a mess that humankind had become. We read how in the beginning the human race rejected God and in an attempt to be free, rebelled against him. In a pattern that's been repeated an infinite number of times in ways since, the freedom that was sought turned out to be, in reality, slavery of the worst kind. Cut loose from a once perfect relationship with God, the human race descended into every kind of wickedness. Human beings then, and now, have become slaves to our own desires and to evil itself. The image of us being enslaved, trapped and even held hostage by evil recurs throughout the Bible. It's also something that we are all familiar with. If we have any sense, we don't just see it in the spectacular even headline-making outbursts of violence by thuggish criminals. We see it quietly, persistently and permanently in our own lives. Despite our best efforts, we all fail to do what we know is right. One of the terrible things about being enslaved is that we cannot free ourselves because we have no resources to do it. Someone else has to rescue us. Someone else we call a Redeemer. But if all the human race is enslaved, then who can redeem us? The obvious answer is that if we can't redeem ourselves, then only someone on the outside can. Someone who's not themselves enslaved can bring redemption. That someone the New Testament tells us is Jesus Christ, and his coming to earth as a baby marks the long, eagerly awaited arrival of the Redeemer. There are many New Testament verses that talk about this. For example, Paul writes, "For he, that's God, has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins." We find that in the book of Colossians chapter 1, verses 13 and 14. Christmas is about being set free from all that is wrong and all that binds us and enslaves us. It's about the arrival of a liberator, a redeemer. It is no wonder that the words of the carol, we can be glad. Amen.